Hi, I'm Amanda Wallander Roberts with Capacity Building Consulting, and I provide fundraising and evaluation coaching and consulting services to support nonprofit organizations in getting the funding they need to fulfill their mission and understand the difference that they're making in the communities they serve. Since it is the month of my 4-year business anniversary, today I want to share about how the ACU School of Social Work prepared me so well to provide nonprofit consulting to organizations and really build their capacity to serve the community better. So the other day I was meeting with a consultant friend of mine, and she was like, Amanda, how do you do it? How are you so confident with these organizations that you serve? Because she's just getting started in her consultancy and is looking for tips and tricks. And I told her straight out, I said, the ACU School of Social Work is really the #1 reason that I'm successful. Honestly, the amazing professors and staff poured into me, really supported me, encouraged me, built up my confidence, and really helped me take the career steps I needed to take in order to be where I am today. So I'm going to share a little bit about my story, a little bit about why I wanted to be a social worker, my interest in consulting, how the ACU School of Social Work supported me through this journey. So when I was first going off to college, I knew I wanted to help people, but that was kind of the end of my story. I didn't know what I wanted to do to help people. And I specifically wanted to help kids. And so originally I went and was a missions and ministry to children and families major because I thought like, oh, if you're doing ministry to children and families, you can open an orphanage, right? Which at the time I didn't realize wasn't an evidence-based practice. The ACU School of Social Work helped me realize that. But a friend of mine said, no, you really want to be a social worker. And so I met with a professor at the ACU School of Social Work, and they told me how many like different amazing things you can do with a social work degree. You can work with so many different populations and help them in so many different roles. And that was fascinating to me because I thought, I don't know exactly what I want to do yet. So having a degree where I could pick and change my mind and serve in different roles with different people was so intriguing to me. So I got my bachelor's degree from ACU in social work. And during that time, I interned at nonprofits and worked with nonprofits. And it was really interesting to be in classes and be in the nonprofit environment at the same time because I could implement what I was learning, and particularly through the internships. And so one of the things that I found working with nonprofits was burnout is a real issue. It's a real problem. And I was starting to feel burnt out after only working 6 months in a nonprofit. I saw a bunch of colleagues really feeling burnt out. It is a tough world in nonprofits. And so I started to identify, okay, what are some of these like common problems that I'm seeing with different people who are just feeling so stressed? And so one thing that I found was the lack of funding. So the nonprofit that I worked with at the time, we had a grant contract, and that's where 100% of our funding for our program came from. And while I was working there, our grant contract was going to be up, and there were some other organizations in town kind of competing for the same grant contract. So the vibe in the organization was kind of like, are we all about to be out of a job? Which is not great. It's not a great vibe. And of course, the work itself was so challenging. But another thing that I felt just like piled on top was the organization I was working with didn't evaluate the programming. So when I was in the like program evaluation class at ACU, we learned about logic models. And so we had to create a logic model for an organization, a real nonprofit organization, and see, okay, how do the activities line up with their outcomes? How do we know what they're trying to do? How do we know if they've implemented their program correctly? And so when we were walking through this process, I was like, oh my goodness, like I don't have this for my job. I honestly, in my nonprofit, didn't know what our goals were, what we were trying to accomplish in the community. I knew the population we were trying to support, but I didn't know like what we were trying to support them with exactly. And so I thought, wow, having it all laid out like this in a logic model would have been so helpful as an employee to know, oh, here's what I'm going for. And then using that logic model as the foundation for our evaluation plan to say, okay, here we can see we're actually helping the community we're serving. Here we can see we can do a little bit better. Because we were, of course, tracking, number of hours of service and things like that. But after work every day, I kind of didn't know, like, are we helping the community, or am I maybe like hurting as a case manager these people that I'm trying to support? And so that was a real eye-opening experience, particularly with the program evaluation class for me. So after seeing kind of some of these gaps in nonprofit organizations, and graduating with my bachelor's degree in social work, I decided, okay, I want to be a consultant, because I watched some of the professors at ACU support nonprofit organizations in town in a consulting role. They'd give them advice, they'd help them with particular projects, they'd guide them and encourage them, and I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. And I didn't know that nonprofit consulting was actually a thing outside of being a professor and just helping nonprofits on the side. But I decided, okay, this is what I want to do. So I went to the ACU master's program for social work and said, I want to be a nonprofit consultant. Can we make these classes work for me? Can we make an internship work for me? And we went back and forth a little bit because I had some different ideas about an internship, and the professors were like, no, we actually know what you need. You should listen to us. And I'm so glad that I did, because it ended up being like perfect. I could not have figured it out better myself. And so there are so many different classes in particular in the master's program, and so many like projects that helped me do what I needed to do to be a consultant. So I'm going to tell you about a few of them. One of my favorite ones was in a nonprofit management class where we were learning about organizational development. And we had to take the organization that we were interning at, diagnose it, and present how that organization could be improved. And so we had to basically say, here's the problem, here's how we would fix it to build up the organization better. And because my internship supervisor, who was the nonprofit at the organization, or the executive director at the nonprofit at the time, he had gone to the ACU School of Social Work. And so he knew about the project, and he was like, can I come in and sit on your presentation? And I was like, oh no. But luckily the professors talked me through it, and it ended up being great. And so when I presented, I said, here's what I think is wrong with your organization. Here's what I think could be done to fix it. And like, here's the steps that I would propose. And the executive director who was there was like, yeah, you're exactly right. That would really help the organization. And so that was such a nerve-wracking experience at the time, but it really laid the foundation, because later on I went to intern at a nonprofit consultancy, and I kind of did the same thing for them, even though it wasn't part of a class and they didn't ask for it. So I went for my exit interview after my internship had ended. I presented a plan and I said, here's how I think your organization could run better. Here's this new position that I would recommend creating for your organization. And that's the position that, if I were to continue working at your organization, would fill. And they were like, oh, we only have this other position available. So I was like, it's okay, no hard feelings. But a couple of weeks later, my supervisor at that consultancy ended up in the role that I had recommended. And so that confirmed to me that it was a good idea, and that I could really help organizations by doing that kind of diagnostic work. But it was the confidence that doing that in grad school had built in me that allowed me to be bold enough to say to this CEO of a company, like, here's how I think you should fix your company. So that was one experience that really helped me, and ended up kind of launching my consulting work, because after after that experience at the nonprofit consultancy, I went off and started my own business later that year. So we also, in the ACU, the grad school program for social work, we had to write a grant for a real nonprofit organization. And at the time, I did not enjoy that project, but I have used that over and over, and it's become a huge part of my business and a huge part of what I teach and consult with. And so having, the kind of the safety net of it being a school project gave me a lot of confidence to know, like, oh yeah, I can do this on my own. Another thing that I found so impactful that the ACU School of Social Work required was the thesis. And I heard so many people, because I was with a lot of other people in the undergrad program who were like, well, we go to ACU for grad school, or will we not? And the thesis was a big point of like, oof, I don't know if I want to do that much work. And honestly, it was such a powerful experience for me, because first off, in addition to all the literature reviews we had to do for class, we have to do a literature review for the thesis. And that helped me so much to understand how to take this breadth of knowledge and just this unbelievable amount of information and whittle it down to see what's important and really build a case for a particular research project. And so I told the professors probably over and over, like, I'll never do another literature review again. And then literally, like, one of the first projects I did with my consulting business was a literature review for an organization. So it is a very, very useful skill, even if you don't like it. But having that viewpoint has helped me share with other organizations, about evidence-based practice. Because that's what the ACU School of Social Work is based on, is okay, what does the research say is effective? Let's do that, and then let's evaluate it to make sure it's effective for us. And so many organizations that I work with did not come from that mindset and did not come from that perspective. And so what I constantly find myself saying is like, hey, let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's go to the literature. Let's do a literature review and see what other people have successfully done to help our organization really make a significant change with the population we're trying to serve. So the literature review portion of the thesis was actually really powerful and helpful for me. But also the study itself was an impact evaluation, and it helped me understand that how intense doing impact evaluation for nonprofit organizations really is. Because we all talk about impact, and that's like, the new term that everyone loves to use. And maybe not new, but it's really popular right now. And so for me, knowing the difference of, okay, evaluating outputs, so evaluating, is our program working as planned, is different than evaluating those like short-term outcomes, which say, in 1 to 3 years, how is our program making a difference? Which is different than the impact evaluation of like over 7 to 10 years, what kind of difference are we making in the community and for the people served? And so to do that third type of evaluation, for me, really helped support knowing how important those other two types of evaluation are, and being able to guide and coach organizations to doing that third type of big picture important evaluation. And with that thesis, I got so much support and encouragement from the professors in the ACU School of Social Work to publish. And so they reviewed it for me. They didn't take any credit. So because of the work I did on my thesis, I have a peer-reviewed journal article where I am the only author, which is amazing. And at the time I was 23, so that was like huge. 22, yeah. So that was such a big deal for me, and really helped prove to organizations who, see this 24-year-old when I was 24 and I started my business, and be like, why should we trust you to do anything or say anything? The professors at ACU gave me so many opportunities to prove my value in kind of the big picture setting through the literature. They also encouraged me and supported me in presenting at different conferences and co-writing some articles with them and getting published with them on their articles. And it was like opportunity after opportunity. They even encouraged me to be an adjunct professor when I was 23 for the Graduate School of Social Work. And so I had so many different experiences under my belt through which I, built the confidence to launch my business and to go help nonprofit organizations. And so I could say just a million positive things about the ACU School of Social Work, and in particular their master's program there. But if you are considering getting an MSSW from ACU, I would really recommend exploring the different opportunities that they offer. Can you get in on their research? Do you want to do your own original research? Because if you do, they will support you in that. And just taking advantage of every single thing, listening to them and their advice, and just, it's kind of like sitting at the feet of the masters. Honestly, I really took that approach and would sit with professors and talk with them and hear about their experiences and learn from them. And they offered that freely. They were happy to give me advice. They were happy to give me support and encouragement, and really invest in me, invest in my career opportunities, invest in my confidence. They believed in me a lot more than I believed in myself. And that has just like really become the foundation for going out there on my own and running my own business. So now I use kind of all of these things that I've learned to help organizations create logic models and evaluation plans, to fundraise for their organizations, including writing grants. I try not to do as many literature reviews now, but I know what a good literature review looks like, and I know who to call to have them do the literature review and support organizations, and having that evidence-based approach to really maximizing the difference they're making in their communities and maximizing their resources to do it well. So I'm hoping that, all the services that I provide for organizations really do help reduce that burnout, really do build that capacity to support the organization's sustainability long-term, and to support the organization's employees long-term. So please feel free to reach out if you have any questions about the ACU School of Social Work. I would love to chat. I would love to tell more about my experiences and some of the funny stories that I have. And I hope you'll have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much for watching.